I'm here with the winner of Survivor Season 2 Earth, Wind, and Fire, Peter. Congratulations on your win.
Oh, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. I'm excited for this.
I'm excited to pick your brain. I've never won a long-term org, so I'm like, let me get some tea from
Uh,
Peter on how to do it.
this is my first Survivor win, actually. So I don't know if you're talking to the right person because it took me like 26 tries to get one, but
26 Survivor seasons.
something like that. I can actually get you an exact number here. But it is something. It's in the mid 20s, I know.
See, I
But
don't keep track of orgs anymore. I know some people do and like what they placed and all of that, but like I have nothing.
I didn't, and then I got bored over the summer, and I went back and let me see, and I count a couple non-survivor. I played one mole survivor, and I played a circle survivor. Um, what am I at? Gotta love a slow computer. This was my 28th long-term org, so
Wow.
and I had
Okay.
one win in a circle org, but this was my first survivor win.
What was different about this time? Like, what was it that like made everything come together?
I don't know actually. That's a really good question. I guess if you want to go back in my org history, I had a game probably close to a year ago now, and it was what I thought was one of my best games ever. I had to play from the bottom, the top, the middle, but I really just controlled every single aspect I was in. I call it my Mona Lisa of orgs, and I still went out in fourth place. And I joke and I say that that's the org that broke me because ever since then I've really stopped caring about trying to get a win. I'm just like I might never win. I'm just playing to have fun now. Like you can play as well as you want and never win. Um, and I recently I've been in a slump where I've been having some of my worst orga appearances. I was just 20th in an org right before this, just hitting a tough stretch. But I didn't really change the way I was playing, and like I just kind of let things come to me and adjust as they come this time, I think. And I think that was really big is I never got too worried. I never got too up or too down when things went my way or didn't go my way. I just really tried to go with the flow and adapt to my situations like I talked about in my final tribal council.
Cool. Well, kind of starting off at the beginning, uh, going into the season, what was your initial strategy? And by the end, how far had you strayed from that initial strategy?
This is gonna sound really cheesy and it's gonna be like a yeah, right type of thing, but I really didn't come in with much of a plan or a strategy per se. I knew that I wasn't gonna know barely anyone on the cast, and I was right that Vince was the only one that kind of knew me, and I didn't know Vince, to be honest. Like I feel horrible saying this because we had like a bunch of mutual servers and Vince recognized me, but I didn't really recognize Vince. I just saw that we had a bunch of mutual servers and some pretty small ones. And I'm like, there's no way he doesn't know who I am. And I'm just the absolute worst. I should definitely know who Vince is. But like I was just like, I'm just gonna have to like kind of come in and like make friends quick because um some of these people are gonna know each other, I'm sure. And like as the case, and like you guys did a really good job of casting people from all corners of the community, but obviously there's still people that knew each other. So like I just knew I had to hit the ground fast and make friends as quick as possible.
So you started on the Terra tribe, and you guys went to tribal a lot in the early stages. Can you kind of talk about how you navigated that tribe and kind of made it through that first little like slump of the game?
So like my theory when it's like when you're in like your first beginning tribe, I don't think you can get too chaotic too early. And I formed a bit an alliance with Luke, Sam, and Derek. And that was just kind of I was just like, we need to stick together. Like, let's just get through this phase of the game because you can't win an org in the beginning, but you can sure as hell lose an org in the beginning. And I'm like, let's just not do anything to like absolutely hurt ourselves. And like there were some hard votes, like voting Bear out absolutely sucked. Like I know Bear felt super betrayed by us and me and Luke in particular. And like I felt horrible because Bear was a great human, but I'm just like for my game, like I just have to stick with this group I said I was going to. And get to the next phase. And now it's just kind of when you're that early, like you just got to survive.
Yeah. You and Luke were definitely the duo of the season. What was it about Luke that made it easy to work with him?
Um, I don't. We're just super similar. We have a lot of shared interests, which I think helped form an initial bond. I mean, we got nicknamed the UFC boys pretty early, and sports is a huge passion of mine. So whenever I find someone that I'm able to talk about my passion with, like that's just going to create a connection. And once you create a connection like that, you can really start to like form like a strategy bond. And like me and Luke, while we didn't always agree on the best moves, we had similar philosophies in the game. And the only time we really disagreed is when our bonds with people were different. Like I had like different bonds with Jimmy than he did. He had different bonds with Leah than I did. And that's kind of where like we disagreed a little bit because we both did have similar philosophies where it's like you have to use those social bonds to get through. And I think finding someone that thinks similarly as you and has similar like passions outside the game is like a huge way to find a close duo that you can work with.
I obviously Luke is going to be the answer for this question, so I don't want you to answer Luke. What was
All right.
another relationship in the game that helped you get to where you got?
I think a huge one. Well, I mean, I have two. Brooke was obviously key, and that one is actually kind of interesting because Luke was a lot closer to Brooke at the beginning, and Luke was the one that kind of like was like, "Hey, like we need to work with Brooke. Like, that's someone that we can work with." And like, I didn't necessarily feel like me and Brooke clicked right away, but like Luke's like, "This is the person." I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna focus on that relationship," and I did that, and like Brooke might disagree, and I'd be curious to see what Brooke says. But I almost felt that like me and Brooke were closer by the end than Luke and Brooke, which I think was key. And another key one was Jimmy. Jimmy was someone that at points didn't have any super close allies, and like I always made sure to give him enough information because I knew Jimmy leaked everything, and I'm like anything I say to Jimmy, Jimmy is going to leak. So what can I say to him to get him to trust me, knowing that he's going to leak it? But not hurt my game, but like keep him as a close ally, which I think was huge. And ideally, I would have liked to get him out before Final Tribal Council, and that didn't work. But like that was huge to have him as someone in my corner at different points in this game.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, Luke was a huge part of your game, and it's great to have like a number two, like that you can always rely on. How do you think the game would have changed for you if you didn't have Luke, if you didn't have that one person you always could have relied on?
Honestly, if Luke isn't on this cast, I don't know if I make the end. Um, I think it's a drastically different game, and that's the thing that makes Survivor so interesting. Is it's the people that play the game. It's you get this random group of people, and you don't know how they're going to interact and who's going to connect with who. And I mean, maybe I connect with Derek more. Maybe Derek becomes my Luke, and maybe me and Derek run. But if you remove Luke, that means you're also adding someone in, and that just completely changes the whole game. And not to mention, I mean, if you were to clone all of us and put us all back into the game probably still doesn't go the same way because if you're having a different day or whatever, someone's having a sad day or someone's like not feeling that changes the entire like shape of the game. Every single conversation you have every single day changes things. And I mean, so yeah, if you don't have Luke on this cast, I don't think I make the end.
Yeah, and I mean, especially with this game, there was so many tie votes. It was wild. I mean, this is
Yeah.
one of the wildest games I've ever been on production for, and we had so much fun doing the podcast, just talking about like the crazy shit going on. There were so many powers and idols and everything in this game, and you had a extra vote, correct? And that was it.
Yeah.
Do you think it helped that you didn't have anything? Do you think it kind of kept the eyes off of you a little bit? Or do you kind of wish that you had more tools in your toolbox at certain points?
That's an interesting question. I mean, if you look at it, a lot of the people that got tokens were targeted. Um, you look at like Jimmy and Liv. Like, I don't know if they don't have those tokens if Brooke and Steve flip with us, or if that plays in because that's a factor. And I mean, that's something that gets talked about so much, and with how many there were in this season. I mean, what there was 4 of each because we had what 12 reward challenges. So there's 4 extra votes, 4 block of votes, and 4 reveal votes. Like that's a ton. Like there's no precedent for that in Survivor, and like having to figure that, and like I think it does kind of like change. So yeah, I think in a way, like I mean, obviously, like would it have been nice to have it? Like I'm never going to turn down an extra vote or a burn a vote, but did it help me not having those? Probably. I think both can be true.
So you get to the merge, you're part of the leftovers, and you make this big move. How did that affect your game moving forward, being a part of this group where like basically all of you made it to the end game?
So looking back and kind of talking to people, and like now that I've like had time to like digest the season a little bit, and like because when you're in the game, you're just kind of, for me personally, I kind of get on autopilot. I'm just going, I'm just like not trying to think about moves that I've like made necessarily, because like focusing on the past can sometimes hurt you. So I'm just thinking about like what I need to do next, and like, and then Final Tribal Council, I kind of just like, I don't know. I just kind of went off the top of my head. Probably could have prepared a little bit better. But I think one of the biggest things I did was leaking the Everyone Alliance to Jimmy. I think that completely changed the whole shape of the game. Um, Letting him know that the people that he thought that he could trust and wanted to work with didn't include him into an alliance, I think shifted everything. And it put me and Luke smack dab in the middle, and it kind of allowed us to ping back and forth. And I mean, I was worried that we were doing it too much, but honestly, I think we probably could have got away with it even a little bit more because both sides needed us. Like we were in a position where people talk about how fluid this game was, and like it was, but it wasn't, because there were kind of two sides with me and Luke floating in the middle. Me and Luke were kind of the only ones really being fluid. Like Brooke was never going to work with Rachel or Leah or Derek, and those people, like maybe they'd work with Jimmy, but they weren't going to work with Steve or any of it. So I think that really kind of put us in a position where, like, as even despite being called out twice, like they couldn't really afford to get rid of me because they needed me. Or at
Was
least that's my view.
was Brooke always in your end game plan? Like would you have wanted it to be you, Brooke, and Luke to the end? Or if it was up to you, would you have cut them earlier?
Um, I was always open to bringing them to the end. I view end game plans a little bit differently than most people. Luke was someone I always kind of wanted there, and like that was part of out of loyalty of just like that was my dude from the beginning. Even if I thought there's points where I thought that he would beat me, and I guess that was really never the case, but I was okay losing to him. So Luke was someone I always wanted in my end game. But besides that, like I didn't necessarily have people that like I wanted to go to the end with. I had people I didn't want to go to the end with. And everyone else I was just kind of like day by day. And Brooke was someone at points really worried me because I think Brooke's game was extremely underrated and undervalued. Brooke made a lot of the moves happen in this game that people don't realize, and I still don't think people realize how much Brooke did, and I don't think Brooke necessarily even realized how much of an impact she had on this game at points. Um, but I think near the end of the game, I started to realize that Brooke wasn't going to get the respect she deserved at Final Tribal Council, so that was someone that I was okay with going to the end with.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that in their exit interview. So we're getting towards the end of the season now. Jimmy is on a immunity streak. How much did that kind of like ruin your like the last couple cycle plans that you had? Like, would you have wanted to cut Jimmy way sooner than that?
Yeah,
Or
especially seeing, like, I mean, the hindsight's 2020, but hearing that basically if I would have got there with Luke and Brooke, it would have been close to a sweep. Obviously, I would have liked to get Jimmy out a little bit earlier. People knew for a while Jimmy was a threat, and I mean, I always knew it was going to be hard to get him out, and I guess like going to the end with Jimmy for me wasn't like a can't do. It was if I can get Jimmy out, I would like to.
yeah, that makes sense. When you get to that final three, like, did you think you had it in the bag? Like, what did you think your winner chances were at that point?
Um, uh, I would have put my winning chances at probably about 35 to 40%.
Oh wow, okay.
Maybe a little higher. I don't know. I thought it was close between me and Jimmy, and I thought Brooke had an outside chance. But yeah, I kind of thought it was going to be close between me and Jimmy. Just looking at who was on the jury and stuff like that. I mean, like kind of looking at who voted for who. Like I thought maybe I'd have Derek's vote. I apparently didn't. I didn't know where like Leah or Rachel would go. So like there for me, like this game, I like had very little read on the jury, and didn't really know where they were going to become from. If they were going to be bitter, if they were going to like vote for who they liked the most, if they were going to vote for who they thought had the best game. So it was a really hard for me to like know where my chances were coming in. So I just knew I had to kill Final Tribal Council as much as I could.
So what was your plan going into Final Tribal? Like what do you think that you did that like pushed you ahead of someone like Jimmy?
So it's actually really funny. So I VC'd with Jimmy earlier before, after you guys announced the format, but before it all began. And Jimmy's like, "Yeah, I'm just working on writing out this speech." And I'm just like, "Wait, we have to write the speech?" And he's like, "Didn't you get the message in like your DM or not DM the confessional?" I'm like, "Yeah," and I didn't realize because I don't read. Obviously, I'm pretty sure production probably roasted me for the amount of times I didn't read like stuff correctly. But I didn't read that. She's like, you should write it out for people that aren't there. And I started to write it out, and I'm just like, I hate how this sounds. And I'm like, I'm just going to not write this out, riff from my heart, and just do voice to text. And I think that was huge. I talked to Luke after the season, after like the reunion and everything. Me and Luke just had a final voice call to just be like, yeah, like just kind of catch up or whatever. And he had mentioned he was at that party or whatever. And he people at the party mentioned him. It sounded like Jimmy and Brooke read their speeches when it sounded like I was like coming from the heart apparently. And I think that was huge. And like multiple jury members kind of mentioned how like my opening and final speeches were kind of what really kind of were like strong parts of my final. And I don't know if that necessarily flipped anyone or if it came down to that, but those were two things I'm super proud of is how I was able to just kind of come off those on the dome, didn't prepare those at all, and just I kind of had a few points in my head where I wanted to hit on. But besides that, I'm just like, we're just gonna go and see where my brain takes me.
Um hold on, I lost my question. I had a question next. Um so for the jury, what do you think was your game-winning move?
Um, I think it's a combination of just my social game in general. I even though I lied to all of them and I betrayed almost all of them on the jury, I was friends with all of them and like I really like liked all of them as people and like I was able to talk to all of them about like non-game stuff. And I think besides Faya, me and Faya was never gonna be in the Peter fan club. But everyone else, like I was able like to talk to and like I felt like we were all friends when we were playing and I hope to still be friends after this game. And I think just my ability to play the middle when I wasn't safe. Like obviously I was called out in the very first two merge tribals for being a snake or whatever, or I whatever Vince's call out was for trying to make a move hiding behind immunity. Um, but like despite that, like I was able to not receive any votes and just kind of like still had a huge part in most of the votes. And Jimmy, I think Jimmy actually was hurt a little bit by winning so many immunities. It's this weird phenomenon I feel like you see in modern Survivor, especially in orgs, where if somebody is always immune, that almost detracts from the jury wanting to vote for them because it's like, well, would you have got there if you weren't safe? And I could say I wasn't safe and I am here.
Do you have any regrets from this game? Anything you wish you would have done differently? I mean, obviously, like you won anyways, but is there anything looking back here, like I wish I would have done this different? I wish I would have made this decision instead.
I don't know about this. I wish I would have handled the bear vote differently just because like I play these games that have fun and like I never actually want to hurt anyone or like hurt anyone's feelings. And like so I felt really bad about that. That was a really down moment for me. I move wise, I don't really regret any of my moves. Yeah, like even looking back, like I mean, at the time, like every once in a while, you're like, oh man, maybe I should have done that. But like, if I changed any of my moves, I might not be here. So like, I can't really say I regret any of the specific moves I made.
Yeah. What did you learn from this game that you will take into your next about the way that you play, about anything?
I think the one thing about this game that I really like this question, by the way. I normally ask this as a jury question a lot. One of my favorite questions to ask when I'm on the jury is I think like orgs can be a great tool to either like learn about yourself, learn about life, or just orgs in general. I always like asking people like, what's a lesson that you're gonna take either into your life or into the next org you play. So I really like this question. But I think for me, it's really just getting back because I think when I was struggling recently, I was playing in too many orgs and my social game probably dropped a little bit. So I think kind of realizing that like I still do have that social game, like I still do have this ability to connect with a lot of different people and like people from all different backgrounds and kind of getting back to that and really just kind of letting the game come to me and not force the game my what I want to happen on the game. Like in the very first org I ever played, I tried to make a big move super early and ended up getting in this huge fight with this dude. And he's like, "You got to play the cards you were dealt," and that pissed me off so bad because I'm just like, "No, like I'm want to play the cards that I like. I'm like trying to force like my move or whatever." And like looking back, like that dude was 100% right. Like you can't force like certain moves. Sometimes you just have to go with the flow and be like, listen, this might not be the number one person I want to go, but if I do this, I can still keep my game on track and realizing that not every vote has to be your number one option.
Okay, last question. What was your favorite moment of the season, whether it be a voice call, whether it be a move that you did that like paid off, like whether it was just a funny moment? Like what's the one moment you're gonna just like harp on from this game?
Oh my gosh, it has to be the drunk VC with Rachel that Rachel doesn't remember. Oh my gosh, I wish you guys could have been in there for that. I like Rachel just went. If we need to cut this, we can. I don't know if this is like PC, but Rachel was just shocked to find out that I'm straight and went on like for 20 minutes, just like, "You're straight? What?" I had and just for like 20, like just absolutely shocked. Didn't remember any of it when like we texted later that day. But apparently, like she like DM'd people and was super confused. Oh my god, I was literally like crying, laughing on this call. Um, but no, just so many great VCs. I just a couple times I VC Luke while watching UFC fights together, and we just talk about how we're feeling about the fight, or talking about food with Brooke and hearing about how she's gonna go get hibachi, which sounds amazing because I don't have a hibachi place near. Or talk, I mean, just bullshitting with Steve and Jimmy. I mean, so many just cool people on this cast, and it's really I'm just super glad I got to meet everyone and like I just had so many like fun conversations that had nothing to do with the org with these people. And I think that's going to be some of my favorite parts that I take away.
Yeah. No, this was such a fun season. You guys were so much fun to just like watch. And I will say, I was shocked you made it as far as you did, not because you were playing like bad or anything, but because I'm like, these people are dumb if they don't split up. Peter and Luke,
I don't understand how they
and
did
they
it.
never split you guys up. They never
Like
did.
like me and Luke were even talking about it's like how do you not split up like the power duo? Like there hasn't been a like besides like Dom and Wendell, there hasn't been a duo that's like been able to do that in forever.
Yeah. No, and in doing the pod, like I never picked you as my winner pick because I'm like, well, they're gonna come after Peter eventually. They're gonna say we have to
Yeah.
split up Peter and Luke. Styles, though, from minute one, second one of our podcast, I think in the first episode I said, who's your winner pick? And this was, I think, after the first three people went home. So there was still like 20 something people left. Styles said, Peter's gonna win this thing.
Hey,
And he
Styles is
stuck
my
with
dude.
it the whole time. And I was like, no, it's gonna be Liv. Liv went home. It's gonna be Rachel. Rachel went home. It was you. Styles was right, and I should have believed in you more.
Hey, all the spectators, I'm a little salty. I went back and checked the draft. I wasn't drafted by a single person.
Really, is this like a new side of the community, like for you? Like maybe
Yeah,
people
yeah, no,
just
I
yeah.
didn't. There's probably like, besides the couple people I invited from my DR buddies, Styles and Vince are probably literally the only people in the whole like uh channel that know who I am. So, because I played with Styles. Do you know Ben's game from he does some stuff with like BBTG adjacent type of thing.
No,
Um,
I
all right.
don't.
So yeah, I met Styles through that, and he was the one that invited me, obviously, and so came in knowing that unless there's anyone from that game playing, like I wasn't gonna know anyone. So, but I think that worked to my advantage. And I've taught. One of my theories in orgs is you either want to know almost everyone or no one. It's
Mhm.
dangerous when you only know a couple people or half the cast, or if you know half the cast, that's not as bad. But when you like have like known relationships with like 3 to 5 people, like that is dangerous because they're like, oh, that's a small group that's dangerous. If you know everyone and like everyone knows everyone, it's an all-star season, then you're all on a level playing ground. But if you come in as the one outsider, like people are like, oh, like let's like learn about him. Like it's like the new kid at the school. Everyone wants to get to know the new kid.
Yeah.
Everyone wants the new kid to sit at their table, which I think helped me a lot also.
Well, and that's what I think you were stellar at is you took full advantage of getting to know everybody, forging the relationships, and it worked out for you in the end. I mean, this was such a fun season. It had so many twists and turns. I never would have predicted where it ended up. And congrats again on winning. I mean, you killed it.
Hey, thank you so much. It was a pleasure playing. If you guys ever have an all-star season, hit me up. I loved how you guys ran it. As much as the challenges annoyed me, and I gave you guys shit in my confessional, I truly had a great time, and you guys run a great org.
Well, thank you so much. I hope if we do an All Stars, I mean, why wouldn't we bring you back? I mean,
You gotta bring the winners back, right?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you so much for the interview, Peter, and congrats again on your win.
All right, sounds good. Thank you so much.